When you look back at the season from hell that the Fever had, none of us expected them to be in this situation. None of us expected them to be winning a very close Game 3.
What if I told you that Caitlin Clark might actually return for the WNBA Finals? It sounds impossible, right? For weeks, we've been told her season was over, that her groin injury had ended any chance of a comeback. But now, because of a little-known WNBA rule, there could be a real pathway for Clark to play if the Indiana Fever make the finals. Imagine the league's brightest star stepping back on the court in the biggest games of the year. That kind of twist could change everything. Still, it's complicated. The rules, the risks, the roster decisions, all of it is connected. Some people say it's a long shot. Others believe this rule exists for a situation exactly like this. Let's start with how we got here. The Fever weren't expected to be in this position at all. Most analysts didn't even think they'd make the playoffs. The roster looked too young, too banged up, and too inconsistent. When Clark went down with her injury, it felt like their season was finished. But instead of collapsing, the Fever fought their way into the semifinals and now stand just one step away from the finals. Aaliyah Boston has taken on a bigger role. Kelsey Mitchell has been red-hot. Veterans like Natasha Howard and Odyssey Sims have added stability, and even Sophie Cunningham, who many thought wouldn't play a big part, has delivered energy and toughness. This group has shown resilience at the highest level. So naturally, fans are asking, if the Fever are this good without Caitlin Clark, how much better could they be with her back? Clark hasn't played since her groin injury sidelined her weeks ago. At the time, the Fever announced she'd miss the rest of the regular season, and most assumed that meant the playoffs, too. Groin injuries are tricky. They can heal in a couple of weeks or drag on much longer. Clark only played about 13 games this year, which was disappointing given the hype around her debut. But during that short stretch, she brought the attention everyone expected. The Fever sold out arenas, broke TV records, and became must-watch basketball. Then came the injury, and it all seemed to collapse. But here's the important part. Groin injuries usually take between 2 and 6 weeks to heal, depending on severity. Now, we're past that recovery window. That means Clark has had time to heal, to train, and maybe even prepare behind the scenes. Which leads to the big question, if she's healthy enough, why not bring her back? This is where rules come into play. Normally, once playoff rosters are set at the end of the regular season, they're locked. No hardship signings, number 7-day contracts, no new free agents. What you have is what you get. But there's one exception. The WNBA allows teams to activate players already under contract but inactive, whether due to injury, suspension, or maternity leave, if a roster spot opens up. And that's where Caitlin Clark fits in. She's not a free agent. She's under contract with the Fever. That technicality means she could still be activated in the playoffs under the right conditions. That's why people are buzzing. On top of that, the Fever only submitted 11 players for the playoffs instead of the maximum 12. Was that intentional? Some think leaving a spot open was a strategic decision, possibly keeping the door open for Clark. If they had no plans at all, they could have filled the spot with a depth player. Instead, they rolled with 11, and now everyone is wondering if the open slot was left for Clark. Of course, this would be a massive gamble. Bringing a player back after a long injury layoff is risky. Clark might not be in game shape. She could re-injure herself. And her return could disrupt the chemistry of a team that's finally finding its rhythm. But here's the other side. Even at less than 100%, Caitlin Clark is still one of the most impactful players in the league. Her shooting forces defenses to spread out. Her vision creates opportunities for teammates. Her intensity lifts the whole team. Even a limited version of Clark could be a game changer. Now imagine the Fever in the finals against a powerhouse like the Las Vegas Aces. Without Clark, defenses can crowd the paint and make life hard for Aaliyah Boston. With Clark, everything changes. Her range stretches the defense, opening space for Boston, Mitchell, and Cunningham to thrive. The Fever's offense suddenly becomes far more dangerous. Even if she's not fully back, her presence and IQ could shift the series. And beyond basketball, her return would be huge for the league. A Caitlin Clark comeback in the finals would create enormous hype, boost TV ratings, and pack arenas with fans. But this decision isn't only Indiana's to make. The WNBA itself has a stake in this. Clark isn't just a rookie, she's the league's biggest star in years. Her presence directly affects business, ticket sales, sponsorships, television deals. The league has to weigh two things: protecting her long-term health versus the financial and cultural impact of her playing. Would they allow her to return for the finals? Would they quietly block it to keep her safe? Either way, the decision goes beyond basketball. So here's the bottom line. Technically, Caitlin Clark could return for the finals because of that CBA rule. She's under contract, the Fever left a roster spot open, and her recovery timeline suggests it's possible. Realistically, though, it's still uncertain. She hasn't practiced at full speed, the risks are serious, and the Fever might prefer to protect their future rather than gamble. Still, the fact that this conversation even exists shows how much Clark means to the WNBA. If she comes back, it would be one of the most dramatic comebacks in league history. If she doesn't, the Fever will still be remembered for their incredible fight to reach the finals without her. So the question remains, if you were the Fever, would you take the risk? Would you play Caitlin Clark at less than 100% for a chance at history, or protect her long-term future?